I am 82 years old, and every single evening I walk through this big, quiet house, past a dining table that seats 8, and I sit down at the head of it, alone. The chandelier above me hums, faintly, like it's embarrassed to be on for just one person. There are no plates on this table, no glasses, no napkins unfolded in someone's lap. Just polish. Lemon polish. I can smell it right now. That and something else. Something harder to name. Emptiness. Emptiness has a smell. It smells like a house that's been cleaned but never lived in. I bought this table 20 years ago. Imported mahogany. 8 chairs. Hand-carved backs. I remember the day it was delivered. I stood right here and ran my hand across the surface, and I thought, this is it. This is what making it looks like. I showed it off to everyone who walked through that front door. Colleagues, neighbors, the occasional friend. I'd say, feel that grain. You can't get this anymore. And they'd nod, and they'd be impressed, and I'd feel like I'd won something. Now those 8 chairs sit in perfect alignment, pushed in, untouched. Not because I'm tidy, because no one pulls them out. No one has pulled them out in years. They sit there like soldiers standing at attention for a general who lost his army. And I want to tell you something. This silence you're hearing, I built it. Brick by brick, decision by decision. I built this silence with my own 2 hands, the same hands I used to build everything else. And if you're not careful, you'll build it too. Let me tell you how. I grew up poor. Not we skip vacation poor. I mean poor. I mean I wore my older brother's shoes 2 sizes too big and stuffed newspaper in the toes so they'd fit. I mean my mother watered down the milk so it would last the week. I mean I sat in a classroom and I could feel the other kids looking at my clothes, and I made myself a promise. I said, when I have children, they will never feel this. They will never sit in a room and feel less than anyone. And I meant it. God, I meant it with everything I had. So I worked. I worked like the devil was chasing me. I took every shift. I chased every promotion. I climbed and I clawed, and I told myself it was all for them, for my wife, for my kids. They'll understand when they're older, I used to say. That was my favorite line. I leaned on it like a crutch. I wore it like armor. They'll understand when they're older. My daughter had a piano recital when she was 9. I missed it. I was closing a deal that got me a corner office. My son had his first baseball game. I wasn't there. I was on a flight to Dallas. My wife would look at me some nights when I came home late, and she wouldn't say anything. She'd just look at me. And that look, I didn't understand it then. I thought it was tiredness. It wasn't tiredness. It was grief. She was grieving me while I was still alive. While I was standing right there in the kitchen loosening my tie, she was mourning the man she married. But I didn't see it, because I was building, always building. I built us a bigger house, then a bigger one after that. I put the kids in the best schools, bought the best clothes, the best shoes, everything I never had. And the house kept getting bigger, and the rooms kept multiplying. And I thought, this is love. This is what love looks like when you do it right. But here's what I didn't notice. The laughter stopped. Not all at once. It didn't disappear like a light switching off. It faded. like a song on the radio when you're driving out of range. One day the hallway is full of noise and shoes kicked off by the door, and then one day it's just architecture, walls and doors and square footage. I told myself it was because the kids were growing up. That's what kids do. They get older, they get quieter, they move on. It wasn't normal, it was a warning, and I ignored it. My wife tried to tell me, more than once. She'd say things like, "They don't come downstairs anymore," or, "Have you noticed how quiet dinner has been?" And I'd shrug and say, "They're teenagers, give them space." Space. I gave them so much space there was no room left for closeness. I gave them a house with 7 bedrooms, and not one of them felt like it belonged to anybody. But I didn't know that yet. I was still proud, still showing off the table. The night everything cracked open was the night of my retirement dinner. I was 67 years old. I had planned it for weeks. This was supposed to be the beginning. I kept telling myself, now I'll have time. Now I'll sit at this table and we'll eat together and we'll be a family the way I always meant us to be. I set the table myself that evening. 8 places, wine glasses, cloth napkins. I even lit candles. I never lit candles. But this night was supposed to mean something. My wife was there. My youngest son was there. He arrived on time, but he stood in the doorway for a moment before he came in, like he was entering a museum, not his father's house. He looked around the dining room the way a stranger looks around a hotel lobby. Polite, careful, not touching anything. My older son sent a text 20 minutes before we were supposed to eat. Something about work running late. He didn't come, didn't call, just a text. And I stared at that little screen and I thought, I taught him that. I taught him that work comes first and people wait. My daughter came. She sat down. But she sat at the far end of the table, 4 chairs between us, and she kept her coat on for the first 15 minutes like she might need to leave in a hurry. Like she was visiting a place she didn't plan to stay. The chandelier was on. The warm light hit the mahogany and made it glow the way it always did. The house smelled like roasted chicken and rosemary because I had asked my wife to make the meals she used to make on Sundays when the kids were small. I thought the smell alone might bring something back, some memory, some warmth, some echo of who we used to be before the house got so big and the silences got so long. It didn't. The smell just floated through the rooms and dissolved into nothing. Rosemary and regret. That's what that kitchen smelled like. We ate. We barely spoke. Forks on porcelain. Ice shifting in glasses. The sound of people chewing who have nothing to say to each other. I tried. I told a story about my first day at the company. Nobody laughed. My youngest checked his phone under the table. My daughter cut her food into small pieces and moved them around her plate like she was solving a puzzle she didn't care about finishing. I remember the sound of the clock